Ready?
Ready.
I love you.
I love you too.
Hello, everyone. Today we are doing review lesson 114. That's 114. And the correlating chapter text of chapter 11, God or the Ego, section 4, the inheritance of God's Son. Let us begin. Alex?
Chapter 11, God or the Ego. Section 4, the inheritance of God's Son. Never forget that the sonship is your salvation, for the sonship is yourself. As God's creation, it is yours, and belonging to you, it is His. Yourself does not need salvation. That's self with a capital S. But your mind needs to learn what salvation is. You are not saved from anything, but you are saved for glory. Glory is your inheritance given you by your Creator that you might extend it. Yet if you hate part of yourself, all of your understanding is lost because you are looking on what God created as yourself without love. And since what He created is part of Him, you are denying Him His place in His own altar.
Wow.
Now that brings up something for me that we were just going through on Facebook, where somebody was saying, Alex, remember to laugh. Mm-hmm. And in that very small statement is a judgment that I'm thinking wrong, that I'm doing something wrong.
Yes.
And while it may seem like a very innocent thing to say, it's a projection of judgment.
Absolutely. And they're projecting out is what they're doing.
They're projecting out their beliefs about themselves. Mm-hmm. That they believe they should just always be happy and joyful and don't look at the thoughts that hurt.
Exactly.
It's really the ego's way of looking at things. Just be happy. Don't look at the thoughts that hurt.
Deny.
Deny. Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what the ego wants you to do. You know, it's how you are taught to look at yourself. All of us are taught to look at ourselves as being inconsequential. We do not matter. Our thoughts and our opinions do not seem to matter. And yet, we're supposed to take in everybody else's judgments and their thoughts and opinions as mattering more than our own. And this is the fallacy that we have been taught to believe in and follow and do. That we're not worthy. That we are unworthy and we are not good enough. That whatever we contribute is never enough. And it's, like I said, it's a fallacy, folks. It's a lie. And they're wanting you to look at how you have been valuing yourself here. How you've been taught to perceive yourself. Because how you value and perceive yourself is how you perceive and value your brothers. If you can't see them as your equal in every way, and I mean every way, and it's male and female alike, folks. When I say brothers, I mean humanity in its entirety, not the males or the females. I mean everyone. I see them all as one. No difference between them. Think about that. There's no difference between them, except for how we choose to view or judge their appearance to us. And this is what I'm trying to extend to you all, is this understanding, this knowing that we are all the same. And that this is our inheritance, to understand that we are equal in every way. And that we are, as God created us, equal to God. Because we can create as our Father created us. Please continue.
2. Could you try to make God homeless and know that you are at home? Can the Son deny the Father without believing that the Father has denied him? God's laws hold only for your protection, and they never hold in vain. What you experience when you deny your Father is still for your protection, for the power of your will cannot be lessened without the intervention of God against it, and any limitation on your power is not the will of God. Therefore, look only to the power that God gave to save you, remembering that it is yours because it is His, and join with your brothers in His peace.
Now, what that's talking about there, folks, is recognizing that God does not deny you. God does not abandon you. That it's when you choose to deny God His place within you, that when you choose to deny Him and in those moments deny yourself. When you block Him, you block yourself. So anytime that you're believing that He has abandoned you, it's not true. You have abandoned Him. You know, as it said in paragraph 1 there, His place is His own altar within you. So if you choose to deny Him His place within you, believing that, He's apart from you and has denied you, then you are the one blocking Him from being with you in those moments. No one else is doing that but you. He's not doing that to you. That's your choice to believe that. Whatever you're experiencing in those moments, folks, is your choice. You're holding on to something that is in conflict with the truth. And as it says here in paragraph 2, God cannot intervene in this. That would take away your choice of free will for you. All He can do is stand there and wait for you to open the door to Him and say, please, Father, I need you now. Come to me. And He can enter again into His own altar within you. Until then, He's been evicted, folks. He's been evicted and He can't come in because you are holding the lock and key. Think about that. You're the one holding the door closed right now. You're the one that has the padlock on that door with that eviction notice in your hand to God. It's your choice to keep evicting Him out of there or bring Him in and give Him His home back. Please continue.
3. Your peace lies in its limitlessness. Limit the peace you share, and yourself must be unknown to you. Every altar to God is part of you, because the light He created is one with Him. Would you cut off a brother from the light that is yours? You would not do so if you realized that you can darken only your own mind. As you bring him back, so will you return. That is the law of God, for the protection of the wholeness of His Son. Only you can deprive yourself of anything. Do not oppose this realization, for it is truly the beginning of the dawn of light. Mm-hmm. Remember also that the denial of this simple fact takes many forms, and these you must learn to recognize and to oppose steadfastly without exception. This is a crucial step in the reawakening. The beginning phases of this reversal are often quite painful, for as blame is withdrawn from without, there is a strong tendency to harbor it within. It is difficult at first to realize that this is exactly the same thing, for there is no distinction between within and without.
Absolutely. Think about that, folks. what it just stated there. It is talking about how you will internalize. When you stop blaming the world out there, you start internalizing that blame on yourself. Blaming yourself for doing something wrong, doing something bad, and just thinking that you're the cause of everything. I've done this. Alex has done this. All of us have done this. Internalized and thought that we were the problem.
Well, it's a belief that something has gone wrong. It's a belief that there is a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as it states here, this is a very crucial step in changing the way you think, is to recognize and to oppose steadfastly without exception these things that are used as denial.
Resist temptation.
Yes, resist temptation. Alex has been getting that message the last couple of days of resist temptation in his mind, flashing through his mind. You know, Friday, I was hit with a very severe migraine. And we were supposed to yesterday have a inspection of this place that we're renting right now. And because I was so sick, we asked to reschedule it for like sometime during the week. And they said, sure, fine. And they did that. And apparently while Alex had left to go to work and do some jobs, I was here throwing up all day. Seriously, like all day long, dry heaving and vomiting. And I'm not quiet when I dry heave and vomit, folks. I mean, the whole neighborhood can hear me, even with all the doors and windows closed. That is how loud I am, and I can't help it. It's so excruciatingly painful. And whoever came and put up the notice on our door that our tenancy here is being terminated in 60 days when our lease ends. And so I'm, sitting there getting sick, and I'm just going, great, wonderful. And we're asking ourselves, what is all of this for? On top of that, we got hit with something from one of our bosses saying that we can't be authentically who we are. That when they asked me a question, and me being authentic and honest, stating that I'm a clear open channel, a psychic empath, that I experience what other people experience, that makes people uncomfortable. And I mean, if I'm asked something, I'm not going to lie and hide who I am. And that kind of stuff is making both Alex and I reconsider this whole thing of going out and working for other people and other things of that nature, recognizing we don't want to conform to other people's dictates anymore.
Well, we're always working for other people.
Well, yeah.
It's a matter of having all of our eggs in one basket. To have a large contract that's 90% of our work seems to give them the feeling like they can control and manipulate us.
Absolutely. But what I was speaking of is that in regards to, go out and working for these people and having to conform to their dictates and their manipulations out of some sense of fear. It's like, that's not what we want to base our life out of anymore. That fear that if we don't do what someone else is dictating, that we aren't going to have an income or be able to survive. And that fear that to be our honest, authentic selves, there should be no fear there. And yet that's what we're being told, is that we should be fearful of that and hide who we are.
Or else.
Or else.
And that or else is the unspoken threat of no more work being given to us.
Exactly. Yeah. And it has us rethinking what it is we want to do. Honestly, both of us have reached a point in our lives where we no longer want to go out and deal with that kind of crap. We just simply want to do His work. We would simply rather interact with our brothers freely, authentically, honestly, and do His work. That is what we would prefer to do on a continuous basis. Now, one of the things that I have found for myself here is that I am looking at this understanding that I'm not wanting to follow in my brother's footsteps of holding my hand out saying, give me so I can give to you. You know, pay me and I'll tell you what to do. I'm not wanting to follow that kind of thing. Doesn't feel right to me. My guidance has been to give and give freely of what I'm being given. And that other things will come into action in that. So when I share freely, just like I do with these videos, just like I do on Facebook. But I am being told that people are wanting to connect with me on other ways, such as video chats, private text messages, stuff like that. And I'm being told that if I go that route, then yes, I can ask for payment. In that in everything that there does have to be an even exchange of energy. What I keep finding is people seem to be vampires in that they want something, but they don't want to give in return. They just want to take, get, and not give anything in return. And there seems to be this energy balance that is getting blocked or cut off when we go out there on these jobs and they're trying to dictate these things of how and who and where and what we're allowed to be. That they're trying to stifle who we are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And when we try to conform to those dictates, those judgments of others, that's when we're denying ourselves. And believe it or not, folks, that what we just shared here ties into what this is talking about. It seriously does. It's that denial of who we are that it's talking about here, to stop denying ourselves. Every time we deny God, deny ourselves by accepting the judgments and the opinions and the dictates of others, we are denying ourselves who we are. And when we conform, as we seem to constantly want to do, to take in and accept the judgments and opinions being handed to us, we find ourselves dying inside, being eaten away at that conflicting emotion that just says, this doesn't feel good or right to me. This isn't who I want to be. This isn't who I am. And this is why it's so crucial for you to start looking at this stuff that you've been denying for yourself. How you've been conforming to somebody else's dictates. Because that's all a part and portion of denying yourself. When you constantly hand over your free will to someone else by accepting their judgments and opinions and conforming to whatever they're dictating you do, when they choose to manipulate you to their will using your emotions and your fears about whatever it is that you think is going to happen. That's all manipulation and control, folks. Think about it. It's as we start looking at these things and stop pointing fingers, placing blame, and start accepting our responsibility for our choices to accept that stuff and to conform to that stuff. When we choose to stop doing so and take responsibility for ourselves, we find we can't be manipulated anymore. We stop accepting the judgments and opinions. And when we start standing in our own light of truth and being who we are honestly and authentically and extend that to our brothers, they start to see the truth of who they want to be. They want to be more like we are when we stand in our light of truth. They've lived so long in fear that when they see someone standing there fearlessly, speaking their truth, it inspires them to look within themselves. Think about that, folks. You extend and be the example in those moments. Please continue.
5. If your brothers are part of you and you blame them for your deprivation, you are blaming yourself. And you cannot blame yourself without blaming them. That is why blame must be undone, not seen elsewhere. Lay it to yourself, and you cannot know yourself, for only the ego blames at all. Self-blame is therefore ego identification, and as much as an ego defense as blaming others. You cannot enter God's presence if you attack His Son. When His Son lifts His voice in praise of His Creator, He will hear the voice of His Father. Yet the Creator cannot be praised without His Son, for their glory is shared, and they are glorified together. Christ is at God's altar, waiting to welcome His Son. But come wholly without condemnation, for otherwise you will believe that the door is barred and you cannot enter. The door is not barred, and it is possible that you cannot enter the place. It is impossible that you cannot enter the place where God would have. You cannot enter the place where God would. I see. The door is not barred, and it is impossible that you cannot enter the place where God would have you be. Kind of a double negative there.
Mm-hmm.
But love yourself with the love of Christ, and so does your Father love you. You can refuse to enter, but you cannot bar the door that Christ holds open. Come unto me, who holds it open for you, for while I live, it cannot be shut, and I live forever. God is my life and yours, and nothing is denied by God to His Son.
Absolutely. Now, think about that, folks. What it's speaking about there is that anytime you're denying your brother, you deny yourself. You bar the door to yourself when you deny your brothers. And you can't enter that door by yourself either. The only way to enter that door is with your brothers. And Jesus is standing there at the door waiting. He can't enter that door without us, in a manner of speaking. Seriously, that is the image I get, is that He's standing there waiting at this door, but He cannot cross that threshold until all of us are with Him. Only then can we all cross that threshold. You know, I've said it before, folks, it's an all or none. Either all of us cross over or none of us. And honestly, I'm shooting for that all. That's what I'm here to do, is to get all of us across that freaking threshold. That is my purpose here. To help my brothers see the light within them, the truth of who they are, so that we may all join together and walk together across that threshold into the light of God, into His presence.
Try not to sneeze there.
I noticed.
Didn't want to have to go through all the hassle of editing out a sneeze.
No kidding, huh? So if you are blaming your brother for anything, pointing fingers, placing blame, recognize you're the one with the misperception. Own your responsibility for the judgments you're holding on to in those moments. As it says here, lay it to yourself. Lay it to yourself because you're the one holding on to it. And you cannot know yourself if you keep trying to seek it elsewhere. If you keep trying to see yourself out there elsewhere, you're not going to. You got to look within. You're not going to find yourself out there in the world. It's like stop looking around the freaking bend of the road, folks, and start looking to where you stand. If you want to know where you are, look to where you stand and not to what's up and around the bend of the road. You're not up there, you're right here. You got to look within. Whatever is happening out there, outside your door, has nothing to do with you. With what's going on inside of you. That's all within you, within your own mind, and it's your own choices. You know, as it says here, Christ is waiting there at that altar for us. He is waiting. And it's an all or none, folks. All of us go together or none of us. And he's waiting. He's been waiting there for thousands of years for us to get our shit together, honestly. He opened the door. He unlocked that door and opened it for us, but he couldn't cross over it until we're all together. He found the key and opened it. All right, please continue.
7. At God's altar, Christ waits for the restoration of himself in you. God knows his Son as wholly blameless as himself, and he is approached through the appreciation of his Son. Christ waits for your acceptance of him as yourself, and of his wholeness as yours. For Christ is the Son of God, who lives in his Creator and shines with his glory. Christ is the extension of the love and the loveliness of God, as perfect as his Creator and at peace with him. Blessed is the Son of God, whose radiance is of his Father, and whose glory he wills to share as his Father shares it with him. There is no condemnation in the Son, for there is no condemnation in the Father. Sharing the perfect love of the Father, the Son must share what belongs to him, for otherwise he will not know the Father or the Son. Peace be unto you who rest in God, and in whom the whole sonship rests.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you know, it's as I was just speaking of, folks, it's funny how this tends to have me jump ahead. And as we've shared before, being that I'm dyslexic, I can't normally read this stuff. Anytime I try to read this stuff outside of doing these videos like this, I can't comprehend it. If I'm just trying to sit here and read it just for myself, just to read it, I can't do it. I can't comprehend what I'm reading. It looks like gibberish to me. Yet when we sit down to do these videos, it's, you know, I've stated it before, I'm a clear open channel. I'm a psychic empath. I'm a clear open channel. A psychic channel. And as I sit here doing this, it's like suddenly I get a clear understanding of what this is saying. A very clear understanding with visuals of examples to use. And yet if I try to read this all on my own, I can't understand a word it says. That is how they use my dyslexia. They block me from doing this stuff. I have not read any of this stuff up until now doing this with you all. The only thing that my husband and I have done was the workbook that first year. I couldn't read any of this stuff. And this is our 4th year on this, and I'm only now reading this stuff. So that tells you guys how much I truly do go within to look at and get the information I'm given. Because this is all stuff that I've lived already and have been shown. He is having me teach what I have already received. I extend what I am given. It's like in everything, I simply follow the guidance I'm given from within me. I don't seem to have any desire to try and read books that people suggest. There's just no desire there. If I try to pick up something like that, I can't understand it. I've tried. You guys don't have any idea how much and how often I try. Alex will go and sit there and have someone suggest something. He'll go and he'll, pick it up and start, reading it and try to share something with me. And it's like I see his mouth moving and I can't understand. And it's like I'm like looking at him, trying to understand him, and I can't hear him. And it's like he gets this understanding that I'm being blocked. I can't hear any of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what my understanding is. And it goes further than that. Like with all the issues that I'm having, because I'm getting information from different directions, from different places, and I'm taking that as guidance. And my understanding is the relationship you have with your higher self or Holy Spirit is that he can block you from any of the outside distortions and make it so that you can only hear what he would have you hear. So while it seems like a handicap for you, it's allowed you to move ahead in hearing the voice of Holy Spirit much further than I have. I've actually backtracked because I took something else as the voice of guidance and believed it. And it really set me back quite a ways.
No, it just taught you a lesson in some respects. But I keep getting told that there's no setbacks. All they are lessons.
Well, I call it a setback because you're at a place where you can hear your guides pretty clearly. And I'm at a place where I went from being able to hear his voice pretty clearly to not really being able to hear it at all.
Yeah. Although it's getting clearer for you now.
Every once in a while, I'll put out a prayer, like a Facebook post, and I'll get a clarification that comes in right away, an understanding that comes to me. But it's not like it was.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's where that whole thing about resist temptation comes from. Because there's the temptation to hear other voices and to believe that is the voice of guidance.
Yeah. And it also goes hand in hand with listening to your brothers out there in the world. It's like, in some respects, it's like I was sharing the other day, it's hear the message and ignore the messenger. And one of the things, like with Alex and I, Alex has a hard time hearing any messages that may come through me because he sees me. He sees the messenger and not the message. And I've done the same thing with him and with others in that respect. That they'll say something and what I'm hearing and what I'm perceiving is dead on truth, but I'm also not understanding fully the message that's coming through in that moment. And it's not until I sit back and truly look, do I get the full understanding. of why they came across to me in that particular way with their dictate. And when I'm looking at it, I'm getting an understanding of where they're coming from. See, folks, for me, I have been shown to analyze everything on multiple levels, and everything goes like 10 times deeper underneath to understand the psychology behind it, why they would do these things, what would be the trigger to it. And those are the things that I get shown to look at, because then I recognize those triggers within the rest of my brothers, because those are the same kinds of triggers that I had within myself. Did you get what I'm saying here? Did that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. So those are the kinds of things that I get shown. And sometimes when I'm speaking to my brothers, like I can remember, 2 years ago, when for the first time we went to the CMC, first or second time, they had someone that was similar to me with their ability to be as a psychic. And they were sharing something, and I was getting that there was a concept misperceived, and that there was a deeper thing that went with it. And I went and shared that. And after the sermon, the service, the gentleman had come over and was speaking to me. And I broke it down even further for him. And he just said, "Holy cow, that's even deeper than I was thinking it was. I thought you were like over here. But no, that's like 10 times deeper." I said, "Exactly. I'm not who they think I am. I'm not who you thought I was." And he just looked at me for a moment and said, "Yeah. People are putting a blanket over the messenger of being who they're not. It's like, hear the message and stop shooting the messenger." That's what they're saying to me. Take away your weapons, which is your judgments, because you're shooting the messenger with your judgments. It's not the messenger that's important, it's the message. And it's that condemnation that you guys are holding of your brothers that is holding you in your cell right now. That is limiting you to that little sphere that little bubble you're trapped in. All right, folks, that was Chapter 11, God or the Ego, Section 4, The Inheritance of God's Son. Let's move on to the lesson of the day. Alex?
Workbook Lesson 114. Review of Lessons 97 and 98. For morning and evening review. I am Spirit. I am the Son of God. No body can contain my spirit, nor impose on me a limitation God created not. I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. What can be my function but to accept the Word of God, who has created me for what I am and will forever be? On the hour, I am Spirit. On the half hour, I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation.
All right. That was lesson 114, 114 of the review section. As you know, folks, read the introduction to this if you really need to figure out what it's asking you. It's asking you to put into practice these lessons, to take them in on the hour and the half hour, and to put them into practice with your everyday living, to find how they correlate in your day-to-day life. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And my name is Alex Reyenga.
And as I said, this is review lesson 114. I am Spirit. And I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation with the correlating chapter text of chapter 11, God or the Ego, section 4, the inheritance of God's Son. Thank you for joining us today. Hugs, love, light, and blessings on your journey, my brothers. You are loved. We love you. Please do the work. You're the only one that can do it here. Please be the light you are meant to be. Please again.
Peas. More peas.
Please be the light you are meant to be. Please be the light we know you to be.
Or just be peas, and then it'll be easier.
Yeah, peas in a
normal.
pod.
Right.
We're peas in a pod.
We're all
here.
peas in a pod. We're all one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Please choose to be the light, folks. You are loved. We love you. Have a glorious day. Blessings to you. Bye.